What's going on, everyone? So a big thing that the Lakers have emphasized the last really two off seasons has been to be that organization that develops, builds, grows young players. And I've talked about with the new CBA, it is very important to kind of create this farm system and cycle where you're going to have players that kind of fall out, whether it's contracts or they're just, better opportunities elsewhere. They're just not very good or whatever, right? Like there's going to be, players going out, new players coming in, happens every season. And with the new CBA, you need to be able to have cheap, young, versatile talents. You need to be able to develop. It's not really been the Lakers thing over the years. They've developed guys over the years, but it's few and far between. And it's usually like the superstars that probably would have been superstars anywhere, right? Like Magic probably is really good no matter where he goes. Kobe's probably really good no matter where he goes, right? Some of these guys that are out there. But we've seen more often than not, Lakers will kind of build up guys just enough to where they can unload those guys and go get that other star. But now you really need to have this influx of talent where talent's going out, new talent's coming in, and you're kind of getting guys that even on the back end, right? And look, you're going to miss on some. There's going to be some that no matter how much effort and money and energy you put into guys, just not going to work out. And then there's going to be guys that do. And you really only need 1, 2, 3 guys to where it could be absolute game changing for an organization. You find, out of 15 guys, you find 2 that can actually be in your rotation or maybe even a starting level guy or something like that. Again, that could be absolute game changing for your organization. So I love that the Lakers really want to be that, have made the efforts and attempts to do so by restructuring their conditioning and training and all that, all the coaches and doctors and all that stuff. There's no reason we shouldn't be the best organization for those things. Look at the Dodgers with the farm system and stuff. I don't think it's a coincidence that last season you started to hear that. And then this year, Mark Walters comes in and is going to end up being the majority owner, right? And this is something that's been in the work for years. Well, last offseason was probably when things started really kind of, this is really probably going to happen in the next year. Well, I want us to start carving out and doing these things. No expense is too much. And I talked about when we got the announcement, that is probably where we're going to see the most improvements, right? Baseball, you don't get the salary cap. NBA, you do, and very restrictive one now, right? So Mark Walters can't just reach into his empty or his, deep pockets and pull out a bunch of money and pay for whatever, right? So how do you see his impact on this team? It's in various departments and staff and, facilities and all those things. Lakers don't have a pro development department, right? They don't have a pro scouting department. There's a lot of things that they don't have that other organizations have. It's why, you'll see Lakers sign random guys. Why are the Lakers bringing this guy? Because they don't know any better. They're just going off a reputation. They don't actually have a department that's hey, this guy doesn't make sense. This guy does. I don't really know that guy. Yeah, but he's the better fit, right? So usually Lakers end up getting guys that you're kind of why does this guy make sense? But this offseason in particular, we've seen a lot, especially recently, a lot of guys getting brought in and then waived and then so on and so forth, right? Every year you see that, but I feel like you've seen it a lot more this year than in previous years. Right? We got 7 guys coming into training camp and then half those guys, if not more, have already been waived, and then they brought in 3 new guys and then waived those guys already and now brought in 2 new guys, right? And it's why are they getting rid of Kaluma and, Dixon and all these other guys, right? What is going on here? Well, the reason they're doing that is because they're trying to get that influx of talent. Right? Those young players, those guys that are in that 24 range that, have some seasoning to them, have a little experience, are guys that can maybe, make some noise and whatnot, have an impact, but are guys that, still probably a year or 2 away. So you kind of develop these guys, they get into that, now they're 25, 26 range, starting to get into their prime, but they're developed now, flushed out. Give them a year or 2 on your team and the rotation or the back end of the roster. So now by the time they're 27, 28, now they're starting to really make some strides. And like I said, you hit on 1 or 2 of those guys, you're a completely different team. So I look at this situation, I look at kind of what the Lakers are doing right now as far as the players go. Because I talked about this a couple months ago now. Like it's nice to want to be a development team and get a bunch of young players and young talent and do all those things, but you need to do it at some point. Now, the Luka Doncic situation just kind of threw a wrench into everything. Right? The Luka Doncic situation kind of made things tough because it's like, okay, well, now that's priority, right? And now we need to like kind of build this team so you kind of have like this like balance. Okay, well, now we got to shift gears and go over here rather than we were heading in this direction. But like I talked about, I actually made a whole video on it. Like, I don't want to see the Lakers lose sight of the goal, which is like, hey, we need young players. We need young talent. We need to grow and develop guys enough to make that shift so you can start to create that cycle. So you can start to create those things because, you know, like Lakers have the potential to, if they can carve out that farm system, I mean, you have a leg up over anybody. Right? You're the Lakers. You're in LA. Right? Like you have that media outlet and that market. And that, you know, I've talked about like trust the Lakers brand. I've talked about it with stars. I've talked about it with everything. Right? Like, yes, there's some guys that care less, but there's a lot of guys that do. There's a lot of guys that would love to be in LA with the beach and the beaches and the women and the nightlife and the money and the luxury and all those things and putting on that purple and gold and the legacy and the history and all that stuff. And like, I get to be a part of this again. Like a lot of players that want to do that, you know, like, so if you're the Lakers, to me, again, you trust the brand, you trust that's going to pay off for you. Allow these things to kind of happen, kind of fold in their own. You start getting these young players, start getting these guys. Like I said, you get right on an Arthur Kaluma and an Eric Dixon. Like all of a sudden, it's like there's two guys that are going to be really cheap for the next handful of years, plus that you don't have to pay a ton. That could be, you know, difference makers. You know, not everyone's going to be a superstar. Not everyone's going to be this. Like I'm not even talking about that. I'm not even talking about guys coming in and, you know, being the best player on the team or second best player. I'm talking about guys that even if you just find a guy that's a legit 7th, 8th guy, you need that. You need that over the course of the season. Now you find a guy that can be, you know, a legit two-way wing. If Arthur Kaluma can just be, you know, a really good two-way guy for you. Not elite, not great, not like, you know, oh my God, this guy's the best two-way guy in the league, but just like a really good, versatile defensive piece for you. It's exactly what this team needs. You can develop, you know, and find that guy if, you know, whatever, whoever, right? Like if Eric Dixon can come in and be, you know, that sixth man for you and just be that bucket getter off the bench and average 15 a game off the bench, that's huge for this team. Right? Like, but you need to start carving out those guys. You need to start getting those guys. So I love seeing this kind of, you know, here's like 3, 4, 5 guys in a training camp, and now we're going to waive them all. Why are they waiving these guys? Why are you seeing the Lakers do all these things? Because they're getting the rights to now play in the G League. Why do the Lakers sign, you know, a Jaron Cumberland and then 4 hours later or 24 hours later end up waiving him for Tavion, you know, Jones, and then literally like 4 hours later they end up waiving him? Why? Why do they do that? Because now they have the rights to those two, bring them into the G League. So now those guys head to the G League. They're going to get to stay under the Lakers umbrella, the Lakers banner. They're going to get development. They're going to get growth. Right? The whole point is to kind of inject and have it be one kind of cog. Right? Rather, right now it's like, here's the G League, here's the NBA. But you want to have these parallels. You want to have these connections between the two. You want to have something where those two worlds can collide regularly to where you're having this, like, hey, this is the standard and the way and the style of play in which we want to do with the main organization. Want you to have a similar perspective on the roster. So that way it's just an easy transition. Guys are going to the G League team, playing in the G League team, and can easily jump from the G League team to the main roster and not skip a beat. That's what you want. You want to have this easy transition from one to the next, right? And have players. And, you know, some of these guys might go from G League to two-way to the league. Some guys might just go straight from the G League, jump right into the league, right? Either path is fine. But you want to establish and create that. So if you're the Lakers, You're bringing these guys in to now waive these guys to now get their rights on all these intriguing prospects, guys that you like. They have what now? I think it's over 10 guys. If you count the 2 new guys that they just brought in. Out of those 10 guys, if just 2 of those guys can be rotation players in a year, right? Lakers are going to go into next offseason. They have a ton of cap space and do all this other stuff, right? If you can use that money to get higher end guys, right? Really upgrade your top end talent to where now maybe you're bringing an Eric Dixon and an Arthur Kaluma and a whoever else, right? Like a Cumberland, right? You're bringing those 3 guys up to be kind of like your 8th, 9th, and 10th guy. That's huge. Now you have kind of this your front end 7. These 7 guys are great. Still have guys like, a Dude Thero and Bronny James and whoever else, right? But now you're bringing in and you're making that shift from these guys in the G League to now these guys on the main roster. And again, starting to create that cycle. And then guys will phase out and then new guys come in. And then, maybe 1 or 2 guys move up into the starting unit, right? Like what if, Arthur Kaluma is a guy that moves in the starting unit, right? Eric Dixon now moves up to the 6th spot. Now you're bringing in those next 2 guys. And again, you're just kind of continuing to create this chain, but you need to start that process. And it seems like the Lakers are finally starting that process. And I love to see it. I do. I love this news. I know it's kind of confusing and it's crazy. And it's like, who's this guy and who's that guy? And the next minute it's this guy. And then they're waving these guys. And it's like, what is happening here, right? The last 2 to 48 hours, whatever, has just been wild, right? They've cycled through 7 guys. And I get that that's crazy, but it's good because it's showing that the Lakers are actually now making that effort to, hey, we're going to bring influx of talent, of young, versatile talent that we're going to spend the next few years kind of gauging and seeing. Next season, you'll see the same thing again, right? And hopefully, like I said, 2, 3 guys can move up into the main roster so you can start to see progress. You're going to hit on some, you're going to miss on more, right? But the idea is to really kind of flush guys out. And you're gonna have some guys that are this roster is probably looking very different next season. Half the roster are free agents next season, so you're probably going to see a very different team in a year or 2. But you need kind of that back in time. You're going to need guys that are like, hey, we can sign this guy right now because he just wants to be in the league. We can sign this guy for 4 years, $10 million. It's cheap, good young talent. Right? Things like that. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.